In the center of the story is an old man who checks the contents of travel bags for the umpteenth time. He had to take them with him on the trip. He is a retired tractor driver. Lives in a village in the north of the country. His wife died 10 years ago. He knew that if he went alone, then things would need to take half as much. Of course, at this moment, he only thinks about how to please his granddaughter. The boy is 9 or 10 years old. He is very sorry for the boy who was left an orphan after the death of his parents in a fire. At the same time, the old man furtively wiped away a tear and looked at the wedding photograph of his son and daughter-in-law hanging on the wall. By the way, the son was adopted. The old man adopted him at the age of 40. When it became clear that his wife would no longer have his children. In the memory of the tractor driver, the painful memories associated with the tragic memories of 5 years ago were still fresh. On that fateful day, the son and daughter-in-law, leaving their grandson in the care of an old man, went to the river to relax in nature. There was a house on the shore. They bought it recently. The old man was still perplexed. Why, they say, the house is so far from the village, then buy something? It seems to be for relaxation. A few kilometers from the village. Well, for romantic dates, etc. To revive the relationship. Unfortunately, for some unknown reason, a terrible fire broke out in the house. The fire was so strong that it was not possible to find the bodies of the dead. But they found some of the things that miraculously survived. Buckles from a trouser belt, etc. At the same time, experienced criminologists assumed that, most likely, such a fire could only be caused by the presence of flammable substances in the house. But be that as it may, our tractor driver has long resigned himself to the fact that his son and daughter-in-law died. Realizing that the past cannot be returned, the old man decided to move on and devote his life to raising his beloved grandson. And now, in order to organize a vacation for his grandson near the seacoast, the old man had to save money from his pension for several months in a row. Finally, when all the necessary fees were over, the grandson and grandfather set off. Feeling pleasant excitement, the old man and grandson keep looking out the window, hoping to see the treasured ocean as soon as possible. It is worth saying that the old man had never been to the sea. And now, he finally found himself in this truly heavenly place, which seemed to have been created by God for relaxation and receiving pleasant emotions. Being on the beach every day, the old man vigilantly ensured that the tomboy grandson did not go far into the water and did not spend much time in the sun. One day, to his surprise, he noticed his grandson standing nearby, who at that time was supposed to be splashing on the sea. The boy looked confused and didn't know where to start. In general, I saw Mom and Dad on the beach. They held each other's hands. The boy says. After the words of his grandson, the old man turned noticeably pale, and then, gathering his courage, asked, "My boy, you must have made a mistake. Your parents died 5 years ago." But the grandson stubbornly stands his ground. Of course, at that moment, the tractor driver was 100% sure that his grandson was wrong. The couple chirped cheerfully and could not decide on the choice of a soft drink. At the same time, it was definitely a son and daughter-in-law. Fortunately, they did not notice the old man, who, due to the shock he had experienced, could not move. At this moment, the couple paid the seller and, enjoying a delicious ice cream, headed towards the city. Realizing that this case is not so certain, the old man decided to follow them. Fortunately, it didn't take long to go and soon the strange couple had already disappeared behind the door of a luxurious mansion. Wow! Where did they get the money to buy such a choir? Our old man thinks. Realizing that alone he was unlikely to be able to find the answer to such a difficult question, he called the police. To the credit of the law enforcement officers, they arrived pretty quickly. The police entered the house and tried to talk to the owners. But, instead of giving explanations to law enforcement officers, the owner of the mansion put up active resistance and was detained. Already in the police station, under the sights of video cameras, he began to confess. As it turned out, the owner of the mansion was the twin brother of the old man's adopted son. The director of the orphanage went to the trick and, in order to attach at least one boy, kept silent about his second brother. As a result, the orphanage brother often had problems with the law and, wandering around the country, never stayed in one place for a long time. Outwardly, he was like 2 drops of water similar to his brother. But otherwise, it was the complete opposite. Cunning and domineering, he is used to achieving his goals. Thus, the brothers ended up in different parts of the country. One lived in the village in the family of a tractor driver. And the other served several times for robbery. The last time he was released. The colony was in the places where the old man lived. These are the northern regions of the country. I accidentally saw my brother in the district center. But the tractor driver's son didn't tell his father about his brother. I felt ashamed. And so the adoptive, he knew, also pulled a recidivist. Meanwhile, the daughter-in-law immediately liked the strong shoulders and the fearless, confident look of the warrior subjugator of her husband's brother. Fell in love with him. Lost her head. Although a twin, but in spirit, he is closer to her. Unfortunately, the adopted son of the tractor driver did not even know that a spark of mutual sympathy had already slipped between his brother and wife, which, in the end, would push them to commit a crime. The plan of the scoundrel brother turned out to be simple, like all ingenious. He persuaded his brother to buy a house on the river. I will live in it, etc. To fish. And when they bought the house, the scoundrel insured it at once in several insurance companies. Then he burned it, together with his brother at that very picnic by the river. He hit him on the head and, leaving him in a burning house, left with his wife, mad with passion, to the sea. The scoundrels had already been condemned when there was a knock on the door of the old man's house. Wondering who it could be, he opened the door and saw a familiar figure on the threshold. "This is the son." "Really?" The man smiled and stepped inside. It was indeed the son. As it turned out, 5 years ago, in a semi-conscious state, he got out of the house and jumped into the river to knock the fire out of his clothes. He was carried away by the current several kilometers from the site of the arson staged by his brother. On the shore, he was picked up by an old fisherman who lived in a shack near the forest. Unfortunately, either from a blow to the head, my brother did his best, or from the shock he experienced, the man lost his memory. For 5 years he lived in ignorance, not knowing who he was in a past life. And only when I saw a report on the detention of lovers on local television, I remembered everything. As a result, he raises his son and intends to start a new life.